Hi, welcome to our research project on finding the blend between history and marketing of Midwestern wines. I'm Abby.
I'm Ivana.
And I'm Aiden.
For this project, we wanted to combine our different interest areas of strategic communication and history to put together a marketing campaign for a local Midwestern winery.
So, to begin our Midwest Wine Project and to incorporate my specific history major focus, I had to first look at the history of wine in the Midwest and America. My task was to look at and research how wine has been perceived and marketed in its history here. And I came to three conclusions. One, wine is historical. Two, wine is traditional. And three, wine is medicinal. We may not think of Missouri and the Midwest as a region rich in wine history, but believe it or not, it was at one point comparable to what we think of Napa Valley in California today. This stems from the history of wine here in the Midwest, and this began with German immigrants settling in Hermann, Missouri in the 1830s with the production of the Norton grape. These German immigrants, though wanting to be Americans, also wanted to center the town of Hermann and its economy around a unique history and culture. Farming was actually quite difficult in this region due to rocky and shallow soil, but believe it or not, grapevines flourish in these conditions. Thus, the Norton grape became this common cultural and historical product. And Norton is declared Missouri's state grape today, and Norton grapes still produce some great selling red wines that are enjoyed and admired by many people. What I discovered next is that throughout history, and even still today, wine is something that is seen as very traditional. It was not a sector of agricultural consumption that was viewed as modern, efficient, or fast paced. We can see this in Americans adopting what we know as old world wine systems, systems used in places like France, Italy, and Greece, other wine capitals of the world. Old world wine systems designate specific and strict regulations on wine to preserve wine's integrity and the winemaking process, putting restrictions on things such as machine-powered pruning and man-made irrigation systems to grow vines. However, America was pretty new to winemaking compared to countries like France and had to create some variations in these old world systems. However, they still desired to keep wine integrity and had the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Bureau, or the ATF, create an American appellation of origin systems known as American viticultural areas. These AVAs ensured that wine was labeled from specific regions, and the grapes used in that wine could only be grown in that region. Some wineries took and still take it further to limit their wine to grapes grown only from that specific winery, even if they had had a bad harvest that year. It's all for preserving the tradition and integrity of wine and maintaining its character even as history has progressed. My final conclusion about wine is that it has been perceived as something medicinal. By the late 1900s, Congress was taking a bigger stand against alcohol, with acts such as raising the drinking age and requiring warning labels on all alcoholic products. With Nancy Reagan's Just Say No campaign in the 1980s, it was clear that the American government thought wine was dangerous and harming work productivity, just as they thought it had before, and thus initiated prohibition. While this seems like it would really hurt winemakers, it actually did not, due to something that is known as the French paradox. The French, known for being heavy drinkers, smokers, and eaters, oddly had much lower incidences of heart disease compared to Americans. The reason for this was introduced by Dr. Serge Renaud, director of the French National Institute on Health Research in the 1990s, and that was the French's moderate and steady intake of red wine. And after this declaration, wine consumption in America increased by 44%. Since then, researchers have confirmed the benefits of antioxidants in a lowered risk of developing clogged arteries from a steady intake of red wine. This portrayal and then approval of wine as medicinal spurred its consumption throughout the country. This then leads me into my research of wine marketing throughout the Midwestern region. While Missouri and the Midwest once had a booming wine economy, Midwest wine culture took a huge hit during and after Prohibition, and it is fair to say that it has never truly recovered its previous status of being on par with Napa Valley, as regions like California began to prosper once again after Prohibition, and other American viticultural areas like New York and Texas began to spring up. Thus, Midwestern wineries and farmers have had a bit of a challenge to overcome to produce their wine successfully again, and it was my next task to research how they went about doing this. The circumstances surrounding Midwestern wine are complicated. Because of the smaller population of the Midwest compared to places like California and New York, the cost to produce wine was high compared to its much smaller wine output through wholesale wine retailers, grocery stores, etc. Thus, Midwest wineries had to make most of their profits through sale directly to the consumer from the winery. This is done through marketing wine as an experience of history and tradition, as I found in my previous research. The experience of this history and tradition is established in tourist attractions such as wine trails, which are very popular for the Midwest. These wine trails consist of a weekend in which participants visit as many wineries as they can, and those who go to the most wineries in the area can receive prizes, such as expensive wine and other wine-related souvenirs. Not only do these Midwest wineries make money off of the wine themselves, but from the tourism and the experience of the wine as well. As I looked at the physical presentation of wine, I saw this marketing tactic very clearly, especially at how wines are labeled. I have found the Midwest wine and spirits dealer based out of Oklahoma to portray this example, and am looking specifically at one of their French wines. They use colors of deep red and tan. There is an image of a marble carved out face, and there is Roman style decorum around the top and bottom of the label. The wine name is also in vintage style lettering. This shows that they don't want the wine to look modern or zippy, but antique, vintage, and traditional. The Midwest has also found solutions to their wine marketing issues by recognizing what Midwestern wineries represent. These small wineries paired with the space of the Midwest produce a romantic aesthetic, the idea of a classic vintage landscape. These wineries and their tours provide an escape from the modern and efficient ways of urban living. They encapsulate a romantic yet humble way of life that has remained untouched as society and technology has progressed. Drinking wine and touring these facilities create that feeling of experiencing something traditional, original, and one of a kind. With this historical research and marketing background that I've accumulated, I will now hand it over to Abby and Ivana to explain the specific campaign they have created based on what we have discovered thus far.
For this project, we decided to combine the historical research we conducted on a marketing campaign focused on expanding visibility for Stonehill Winery. In order to determine our approach, we first had a look at the state of the industry.
I think it's safe to say that the past year was pretty unusual, and the pandemic has definitely impacted the wine industry. Whether to cope with unprecedented times or to pass time at home, 48% of millennials say that their weekly wine consumption has increased during the pandemic, and 22 to 24-year-olds are the most likely to consume wine at home.
The pandemic has also changed consumers' perceptions of what experiential dining and drinking can be. 53% of consumers have purchased or are interested in purchasing meal kits, and 26% of spirit drinkers are interested in similar kits with small servings of cocktail ingredients.
The pandemic also spurred a renewed focus on buying local, which goes hand in hand with another important trend, sustainability. 76% of adults try not to harm the environment, and 53% of adults will boycott companies that do. That's why it's important for wineries to highlight how their viticultural practices consider important environmental factors.
Even in a product category like wine, providing consumers with experiences establishes a deeper connection with the brand, as 77% of US adults agree that experiences are more important than material possessions. Younger consumers drink wine less often, but are more involved and adventurous in buying wine.
In this class, we've talked a lot about the snobbish perception of wine drinkers. However, more than a third of wine consumers consider themselves beginners. This provides brands with an opportunity to empower the consumer by educating them about wine choices, which can further spur engagement with the brand.
Given these insights we uncovered, we decided to focus our campaign for Stonehill Winery on 22 to 34-year-olds in the Midwest who consider themselves novices in wine knowledge. They're comfortable enough to splurge on wine, but they don't reach for the dom. They enjoy drinking wine, but shy away from the snobbish perception of the wine industry, closing their doors to those who might not be entirely knowledgeable of the industry. Our target are strict social distancers and have decided to stop frequenting bars in an effort to combat the spread of COVID-19.
In this scenario, our communication objective for Stonehill Winery is to use the increase in online ordering and at-home wine consumption driven by the pandemic to encourage our target consumers to use their online sale options.
In order to reach this audience, we know we need to focus on their passion for local business and buying experiences while making wine consumption an approachable market. We'll engage their locavore leanings by showing them the years of history that goes into a single sip of Stonehill wine, without making them feel like they need to be a sommelier to enjoy it. They'll learn about Midwestern wine history and see Stonehill as the #1 choice for their local consumption when they
see Missouri through our wine glasses. This will be the tagline of our campaign. Once again, COVID-19 has forced marketers to reimagine experiential marketing, as gathering in large groups or traveling on traditional wine trails is no longer an option. That's why we decided to create an experience suited for at-home dining that also plays into the popular trend of subscription and gift boxes. These boxes fulfill a need for variety, gives consumers something to look forward to, and provide a different kind of experience at home. However, many local industries aren't taking advantage of this consumer want. which is why our Experience Missouri box will help cater to this area for growth. This product will be Stonehill's Winery to educate and engage our target audience. Each box will center around a theme and will feature samples of wine along with a recipe for a food pairing to go with the wine, letting the consumer have the experience of fine dining and drink at home. And this is the inside of the box, which again points back to our main idea of seeing Missouri through our wine glasses.
The box that we've decided to feature today is the box that centers around Stonehill Winery's red wines. We'll have pamphlets inside the box that will include a recipe that pairs well with the wine. Our pamphlets will also help educate the consumer while they're wining and dining, with a pamphlet that specifically goes into talking about the flavors of the wines featured in the box. We'll also have a pamphlet that'll turn our consumer into an at-home sommelier with instructions on how to properly taste the wine. And finally, each box will have a pamphlet that highlights a historical aspect unique to each theme. For this theme, we'll be talking about the Norton grape.
With our research, we found that sensory marketing can influence product judgments. The sense of touch or haptic information can lead to a consumer feeling ownership over a product, which makes them more inclined to purchase it. That's why we use this information to design a print ad, like the one shown in this picture, that fully engages the consumer's senses.
With our print ad, we'll have a clear sheet of paper before the actual ad, like the slide before, that will make the ad look blurry. After flipping the sheet, it will reveal the print ad with clear vision, and consumers can read our slogan, "See Missouri through our wine glasses," and connect to our theme. We'll make this a series with different wines in our different experiential boxes, with the copy talking about what's in the experiential box. Our target consumer is largely on Instagram, and so it's important that we engage with them through that platform. We've decided that to fully immerse our consumer in the experiential box, we'll have viticulturalists making IGTV videos talking about the wine in more immersed detail than the pamphlet, and having sommeliers do Instagram lives where our target audience can taste the wine with them and ask questions.
Finally, we'll also run video ads on digital streaming platforms like YouTube and local TV stations. Let's wrap up with an example of one of our video ads.
There's a place where rolling hills are lined with picturesque vineyards, where the very vines we grow are rooted in tradition. A place where viticulture meets culture, and hard growing conditions make even hardier wine. Here, wine is for the people. This is wine with a Midwestern work ethic. See Missouri through our wine glasses and buy our Experience Missouri box at stonehillwinery.com.
That's all for our presentation. Thanks so much, you guys, for watching.